So you were a Navy pilot for 18 years.
Yes.
Can you briefly tell the story of your career as a pilot?
Yeah. So first I was enlisted. I was a Marine, and then the Marines actually recommended me to go to the Naval Academy. So it's always better to be lucky than good. But I got to go to the Naval Academy, and I finished. And I had that dream to fly. So when I got selected,
So you've always dreamed of flying.
yeah, since 1969 when I watched Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. I was at that point. I asked my mom. I remember watching it. I was just prior to being 5, and I said, "Wow, yeah, it's so cool, Mom." And she said, "Well, they were all pilots." And then at that point, it was like, I'm going to be a pilot. And if you knew me growing up, because I was a little bit of a delinquent, people are just like, "Yeah, right." I used to joke, I'm going to fly jets, and I'm going to drop bombs. And if people that knew me when I was a kid, they'd be like, "Yeah," and they'd be like, "Not a chance." And then when I did, I actually had this is a funny story, and I'll get to it, and I'll finish my career. But I was at my cousin's wedding, and we all grew up in the same neighborhood. We kind of, that Italian side of the family, that's how we grew up. So it was my house. Right down the street was my cousin Chad, and then right around the corner was my cousin Ray and my aunts and uncles and stuff. The guy 2 doors down from I was a paper boy in the neighborhood, so they all knew me. And I went to my cousin's wedding, and Mr. Race looks at me and he says, "David Fravor." I go, "Mr. Race, how you doing?" He goes, "You fly jets, Top Gun and all that." I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Man, I figured you'd be in jail by now." And it was kind of to me, it was a little bit of a badge of honor going, I kind of overcame that. But
what do you attribute that to? So I've heard you before and just now say that it's better to be lucky than good. And you talk modestly about about just being lucky, but if you were to describe your trajectory, maybe in a way of advice, like retrospectively, how'd you pull it off to be truly a special person?
the easiest way is never take no. Don't let anyone put you down and say you can't do it, or those. I mean, I knew what I was capable of inside. And if I really believe, if you want something and you want to do something, then you can achieve it. Not in all cases. Like if I loved basketball and I really wanted to be in the NBA, there's a realism that says I'm 5'8" and I got like a really short vertical leap, but I'm really not that good at basketball. It's probably not ever going to happen, no matter how hard I try and practice. It's just the way it is. Or for me to be in the NFL, I'm not fast. I'm not that big. It's just physically, I'm incapable of doing that. But there's things that don't really tie to a true physical ability as far as size and strength, but it's mental. And I'm not saying you have to be a genius and super smart to be a fighter pilot. Matter of fact, you don't. It really comes down to the ability to think very quickly. 80% solution is typically good enough, because if you overthink it, you're behind. And then in an air-to-air fight, that's what happens. People try and overthink it, and before you know it, because it's happening so fast, you can't get to the nth degree, 6 decimal places. 80% solution is good enough.
You build up a really strong gut for the 80% solution.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the 80% solution.
I love that.
If you get 80%, you can go, and then you can always adjust, which is exactly what, like if you're fighting in BFM, the 80% solution it's like a chess game, but it's a really, really fast chess game where you go, I'm doing this, and then I know that if I do a maneuver, if he's going to counter it correctly, he should do A. If he doesn't do A, he does some degree less, like B, C, D, and then I know how bad his error is, and then I capitalize. So I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to go, I need to go to 47 degrees nose high. If I just kind of get above 40, then I'm good, and I can watch how he reacts, and then I can adjust for that, and you continually work that problem, and you chip away, because if you start neutral, you're just basically chipping away and gaining advantage till eventually, and if you're really, fighting, just guns only rear quarter where you got to get behind the guy, kind of World War II dogfighting type stuff. Mm-hmm. Then it's literally, it's a very, very fast chess game that happens at, 400 knots, 300 knots, depends.
So to get to be one of the rare individuals that are able to do that, you just had the dream and didn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, well, part of it is family. My dad was, I used to call him a fire ready aim guy. He'd smack me and then ask me what I did wrong.
Yeah. Good parenting.
Back then, I joke and people look, because, at times it was kind of tough, because he can be pretty demanding, but on the other side, I probably needed to be reined in a little bit at times. But then everyone else in my family, my mom was really awesome when I was a kid. My grandfather, who is a big part of it, my mom's dad, who he taught me a lot, and you have a question there that we'll talk about him, but huge influence, very, very positive. And a lot of the stuff that I do today and decisions are based on things that he taught me.